before we could even start planning, we had to wrap our heads around the fact that we weren't going to have in-person camp. It was really tough, I'm sure, for everybody on many levels, but this summer was our 10-year anniversary. So we had so many really exciting things planned, and to not do those was hard. Also, we started thinking about those kids that weren't going to be with us next summer. And so we really wanted to figure out, how do we keep the spirit of I Hope alive for our community, our campers and our staff in some way. So we did decide, let's go into looking at virtual camp. And so for us, it was a big learning curve. How do we keep the spirit of camp alive? How do we make it fun? You know, how do we operationalize this and actually implement it? Neither Renee nor myself consider ourselves very techie. And so besides the virtual camp, there was all the platforms to learn. And how do we then learn that information and pass it on and guide our team in this new venture? So we threw ourselves into learning a lot. For me, I went big or go home. I had to look at everything. I looked at different websites. I wanted to be on every webinar and research as much as I could. We talked to, a lot of it was the expertise of this group. We also talked to our insurance company and our registration provider. How could they help us pivot to a virtual setting? Renee's process was similar to mine, but for her, all of that research, she had to break it down into smaller bites. It got overwhelming. And the nice thing about having a co-director is that when she was overwhelmed, I was like, oh no, we got this. And when I was going, there's no way we can pull this off, she was like, yeah, we can. So having that person to bounce off of and kind of be at different places at different times was really, really good. The one thing, it's try not to get bogged down into the little things. And I'll be honest, I did. For whatever reason, I got really tied up in waivers, trying to make sure that we had the right waiver, and our insurance company was fine with the things that we were doing. But I got delayed in that fact that then delayed our registration getting up. So then we're cutting things tight as we move forward. We really also wanted to engage our committee early. How do we pivot them and really get them working on things? And we usually have a planning committee of about 20, and I would say we have about 10 that are still really engaged in pulling camp off. Our motto for camp is #ChooseJoy. And so we looked at this as an opportunity to expand our programs beyond our 1 week of summer camp. So we have increased our age groups. We've looked at different eligibility. We've always made a place for bereaved siblings, but we've had people approach us for, could you also include kids who have lost a parent to cancer? And is there something that we could do for parents? And so that was another consideration that Renee will talk about later. We also thought it was very important to maintain relationships with our campsite and our vendors. Everyone was really hit hard by COVID. So how could we support them, like letting our deposit ride and still be fiscally responsible to our foundation? And then don't bite off more than you can chew. There are so many good ideas, especially when we've been learning these games from Jack and Cleve, but how do we use what works for us and that we can actually pull off? Next slide, please. And in thinking of that, one of the examples of biting off more than you can chew. So our goal was to over-communicate with our community, with our staffs, our parents, and we updated our website. We looked at, we started off strong. We did some video messaging for canceling camp and announcing virtual camp. And then we wanted to build excitement on Facebook with challenges. And it was just too much for us. We had some, but we didn't get a lot of engagement, and then we weren't consistent in putting that messaging out there. We also learned from our younger kids that they're not on Facebook that much. So they're not even looking at their email that much, which drives me a little crazy. But they're on Snapchat, and they're on Instagram more, and they're on TikTok. And we really took a step back and said, you know what? Let's focus on getting a good virtual camp program, because this isn't the time to try and bite off a big social media push and going across all platforms. So we just had to let it go. Next slide.
So as we were letting go the social media piece of it, we started thinking, how are we going to really do this? How are we going to make this schedule, and how are we going to make it work? Because at that point, it was really the blind leading the blind. And so we started with listening to our experts, and those were the people on our project, on our team, that really had some information for us. We had teachers, we had parents on there who could come back and tell us, you know, they've been doing education on Zoom all year, or all year since March. And so they know, you know, we're talking attention spans, we're talking 2 to 3 hours. What do we do? And so we gathered that information, said, okay, now let's move forward. And what we wanted to do was maintain the things that are familiar and embrace the new. Let's do some new things, but let's make sure it still looks like camp. So we modified our schedule to look, to mirror our regular camp schedules, mixing in the old with the new. For example, we do flagpole every morning at camp. So we scheduled in flagpole every morning for virtual camp as well. And then we moved to our morning activities. What we wanted to do with this is utilize some of the people they know. They know some of the counselors, they know our arts and craft people. Let's get them involved. And they've been anxious and excited to do that as well. Afternoon activities, this is the break. Go out, do something. We're going to encourage activity. Sometimes we'll give them ideas, like go on a scavenger hunt and give them the things to look for. Sometimes we'll just say, go out and do something and tell us what you did. At our regular camp, evening activities are typically all camp activities. So everybody's involved. So we just thought, hey, let's switch this up and let's make it a family activity, and let's involve the family and the participation with that. And then let's go back and look at that. Let's have them make videos that we can go back and watch and really pull in those other areas. And then after that, we have usually, after our big evening activity, we usually have a campfire or something going on to make a connection in the evening. So we're going to do breakout rooms. This is where we thought we'd do some new things, where we would do a breakout room for parents. We would bring in the other age groups and see how that works. That we could maybe, you know, take that over to next year is what we're hoping. So this is our trial run. Next slide. So of course, the next thing is we have a lot of activities, which means we have a lot of stuff that we need to get to them. So how do we do that? We decided to use backpacks. This is our backpack. But to do that, we had to figure out, what do we need to order? And our orders were big. And this is one of the things where Deb said, start early. If you can start as early as possible, because we have things coming in today and our backpack distribution is on Sunday. So get everything there early, get what you need, and then figure out how you're gonna assemble it, how you're gonna distribute it. We decided on the backpacks because we thought it would be fun. It'll hold everything, and also we made it into one of the activities. So they're gonna color it during one of the activity sessions. And then how do we deliver these things? Contactless delivery, thank you, COVID. We're gonna do a drive-through pickup. That gives us an opportunity to see campers. We have counselors that we've invited out to participate in that. For those who can't come out, we're gonna do drop off, and if they're outside of the Metroplex, we're gonna mail it just to make sure everybody gets what they need. So next slide. This is kind of our recap. When we sat down and started thinking about this, we thought when we first went into this, you know, going in, you want it to be good, you want it to be memorable, you want it to be like camp. But then we took a step back and realized that the first thing you have to do is realize that it just needs to be. We just have to do it, and we just have to move forward. So cut yourself some slack. All of it can seem overwhelming, but it is just camp, just like you do every year. So just give yourself that slack. Also, do your research, sift through what you need, what you learn, and pick out what works best for your camp, like Deb said earlier, because not everything, there's great information out there, but not everything would work for us. Engaging our team early and having realistic expectations. One of the interesting things that we found out with our virtual camp is, like Deb said, we usually have a pretty good planning team, a pretty good size. And interestingly enough, some of the people that were most involved in our regular camp planning haven't been involved in all in this. just a little tidbit that we noticed, but it was kind of interesting. But the team that is involved, very enthusiastic, and very creative, actually. So when you engage your team, you just need to have those realistic expectations. We were all learning and communicate so that everyone's on the same page. The things that we didn't do early that we would do early next time is identify and recognize the registration process, getting that information, the ordering supplies, and identifying our staff needs. Because this was new and we were sometimes making stuff up, we needed to communicate that very well based on giving them the information that they needed instead of just what we thought they knew. So some of the things that we've learned through the process, our camp is in a couple of weeks, and I'm sure we're going to learn a whole lot more during that time. So that's kind of an overview of our process and what we did. I want to thank Aston and all the COCA guys for, you guys have been invaluable to us with the information and just the communication and collaboration you've done. It's been amazing. So,
Yes, and I'll reiterate that. Thank you. The information has been helpful, but just, I don't know who was saying it beforehand. It's like, oh, I'm seeing my friends. Just the community has been so supportive in getting through all this. So thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. That it was so cool to see kind of the behind the scenes and how you thought through each part of the process. And I had so many agreements on what you were saying too. Like you were like, yeah, it's not the same people who are the most excited about this that are excited about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, yep. I would have thought something so different. And I love that. I was like, just like me going, yeah, I definitely agree with all that. Does anybody have questions right now for Camp I Hope before we move on? And I'm not going to let anybody off the hook. We need at least 3 questions before we move forward. So I've never been a teacher, but I know that there's a trick where you just wait and people will ask questions. So that's what I'll do now.
I'll ask, how'd you get everything into that one bag?
oh my gosh. Okay, so full disclosure, I haven't yet. I'm still working on that and making everything kind of fit because we have some big things. Like we have balloon pumps that we're sending out. So I'll let you know.
But you put it in a part of it was put in gallon baggies, so that kind of slides in. We have some outstanding stuff because, as I said, our campsite is engaged, and the head of the kitchen there, Mama T, is planning on doing a cooking class, and so she's putting like all these cooking packets together that have to go too. So we're not sure if it's all going to go in the backpack, but we'll know by Saturday.
I have a question. You said you did a video to introduce everyone to virtual camp. How long was it? What kind of format? Like, what did you do?
Okay, so when I said we're not very techie, I had a selfie stick and my iPhone, and we did like probably 5 takes, and all we did was just kind of sit at the picnic table and just acted silly and said we're having virtual camp.
Okay.
When we canceled camp, we did a nice video, and one of our other volunteers came out. And we went out to the campsite and filmed in different places around camp and talked about the cancellation and that, but it was very low tech.
I am curious. First, I do love that you cut yourself some slack. It's still camp. Me and Jack have talked a lot about how guidelines certainly change, and we've had to adapt them a lot to online camp and figure out things that we wouldn't have to do in-person camp because we don't have as much control over certain situations. But I'm wondering, kind of a 2-part question. One, how far in advance you schedule things. We're trying to find a balance in that. Do you do it weekly? Do you plan for 3 weeks? And then kind of like my part 2 of that question is, how do you communicate with parents? Is it all through one email or on the website, or are there a few different ways?
So our registration platform, we use CampDoc, and you can send out email notifications through CampDoc. I also send out email notifications outside of that, just kind of alerting them from my work email, because they're used to seeing that as well, to like look at CampDoc, because sometimes they ignore that. And then this year, because we've gone virtual, there's a feature to add text messaging, and so we have put that in there. And I'm not sure I understood your first question. Maybe Renee did.
We're only a week-long camp, so yeah, so our scheduling is just for that week, and
Okay.
we're sending it out with the packets.
Thank you.
Do you have like a group doing all the packing, or are you guys doing all the packing of it yourselves?
Renee?
You should see the floor of the living room. So I've had my own little packing parties, and it's been fun.
Summer. So definitely an interesting way to start. To give you a little background, like the slide says, I was an events manager, so doing like happy hours and plated dinners before, but I always wanted to go back to a nonprofit and use business skills in a nonprofit setting, not medical at all. So another way I could help. This program coordinator position was recently created within the Department of Support Programs. And support programs is a department within pediatrics at MD Anderson where they provide all non-medical support for the kids. So school needs, arts and medicine, child life, camps and special events. It's a small group that does a lot of work, so they needed more staff. And so that's why this position was created. And so my general roles and responsibilities were outlined of what they were needing this person to do, but there was also a very large gray area where it was, we have no idea how this is gonna happen when we get to it. So this whole year has been, hey, is this appropriate for me to do or take over, or should I pass it off to somebody else? The department has also been at MD Anderson for a long time, especially child life. So child life has had responsibilities for years and years and years, and now it's them handing things over. And so having to gain that relationship with them so we can work together and they can focus on patient care while I can do their backup support for them. So when COVID happened and all the restrictions occurred, every single one of my roles and responsibilities were canceled. Prom was canceled, camp was canceled, weekly events, everything. So I was a little nervous I was gonna be without a job because there was nothing for me to do. And so gradually as time went on, there was a need for virtual programs. So Child Life started the virtual programs. I was brought in to help set that up and coordinate those details week to week. And so learning those different, what I could do to build and help those virtual programs that we do weekly with Child Life, Arts and Medicine, and all those groups. And sorry, I have notes because I get nervous and I forget to say things. So while all that was going on, I was extensively researching like what can we do. I know y'all have probably heard me talk about how we have to use WebEx, and it's a terrible platform. So I had to figure out how we could use it in the small constraints that we did. And so we were still trying to wait and see if the higher ups were even canceling camp. So we were on this weird fence, like, what are we doing? So finally, when we got the green light, we were able to jump full force into planning virtual camp. As time went on and we researched more and then eventually got to actually practice last week with our counselor training, where we had 20 counselors in the WebEx space and the site essentially crashed. So they couldn't even handle 20 counselors. So I started freaking out a little bit, also a perfectionist because I want things to be good, especially with the end result being for these patients. So I typed up 3 pages worth of why WebEx could not logistically support our camp needs. And I gave it to my boss and gave it to IT, and I was like, we need to go to the top of MD Anderson and give us approval to use Zoom. And so it was, one, the numbers, they wouldn't be able to sustain camp. Two, we don't have the flexibility to do breakout rooms. So like with Zoom, you can jump in and out. There's 3 different settings within WebEx, and unless you're in one of them, you can't use the other one. So as of yesterday, we were given approval to officially use Zoom. So that's very exciting. I literally was crying tears of joy. It was amazing. So then I spent 6 hours starting to actually develop our schedule because what we were trying to create wasn't working with WebEx and couldn't create something for Zoom. So finally started to flesh all of that out, and I've given myself a deadline of next Wednesday to have every single detail filled out so that we have time to update the staff about what's going on, update the counselors, and then I also would like to bring the parents on who've registered to give them an overview of what camp is going to look like, and then camp would start the following Monday. So working very, very fast in a very short amount of time, but it's a lot of fun. Through this time, some things that I've learned is this is kind of like a phone call, and phone calls are hard. So over communication. The emails I sent to my team, they probably want to kill me because they're so long. But I make sure that what I'm providing them is understandable and they can get it. And of course, if there's questions, they reach out. I set myself a timer so I wouldn't take too long, but I'm almost done. So over communication with all the team members, so everybody knows what's going on, because this is a weird and confusing and awkward time. Another thing I learned is just start writing a plan. I've never been to camp. I went to camp as a kid, but I've never been a counselor, never made a camp program. So I didn't really know where to start besides listening to these sessions, which have been amazingly helpful. But I just started typing out what a schedule could look like, and I would just sift through it and be like, nope, that wouldn't work. Let's change it. Let's change it. So just put your thoughts on so you can read and think about what you're seeing. With Camp in a Box, learning about things to do for next year, picking items that can be used, like one item that can be used for multiple different activities. So, and this is a very simple idea, but giving them a box of markers you can use for 3 different activities rather than 3 very specific items for it, because it creates, the box is really heavy, all the confusion, you got to stuff everything together and it's just a mess. I also want to do an activity booklet, so providing games and activities that they can do without supplies or with supplies, so if they want to do it, they're more than welcome to, but we're not facilitating it and they can do it on their own time. It's less screen time. And then also having sibling items within the box rather than creating their own individual box. We are very big on patient family care, so including everybody, and we do want to do that, but we also have to think about cost effectiveness and creating twice the amount of boxes to include siblings rather than including specifically sibling items within a family patient box. When you're brainstorming and trying to figure out how this works, working with small groups, once you have like a skeleton of a schedule and you say, okay, I need an activity at this time, then reaching out, hey, you have this amount of time, I need you to create this. So they can still be creative, but you're not giving them free reign, especially with this new idea. Goes a little crazy when there's free reign everywhere and then we don't know what we're doing. I've also thinking about a virtual office. So especially with camp, there's a camp home base where the kids can go in, ask questions when they're actually there, but it's hard with Zoom, you leave and where do you go? So finding that home base where you can provide a central location for information to ask questions, all that stuff. I'm currently using Microsoft Teams and right now it's working, but let's see what happens a couple weeks down the road. So actually I'll know for camp if we're using it or not. And then just as Deb and Renee were talking about, not everybody is a tech person and not everybody is the activities facilitator. So having 1 or 2 people solely focus on the technology part of camp is extremely important. I've been able to sift through all of this information and then give our host, our activity people, the information they need instead of them wasting time, so we can really focus on what needs to happen. And then the last thing I'm just going to say, this has been a really exciting experience and what we can do. And I have no authority at MD Anderson, but what my long-term goal would be for this is that virtual programs is its own team within support programs. So along with child life, school, arts and medicine, camps and special events, there would be a virtual program entity working with all of them and being able to provide it to the kids. Our population is very sick all over the world, so we have a very hard time, in a distinct group that we have a hard time reaching. So it's a huge need we have. And then also being able to partner with groups in other states. There's a great group in California, but they can't fly out here to do the activity. So let's get them on a session and do something like that. So I think it can be created to its own entity and be able to continue to provide in addition to in-person and virtual. So I went way over my own personal time. So I'm done now.
Tara, that is so cool. And I love your big, like, wild dreams. Like, why are we sitting here thinking that things have to be just okay when we can just take on the world? And I love that so much. Questions? Who's got questions for Tara?
Not a question, but Tara, you're a badass, and I think that you have a lot more power at MD Anderson than you think you do. So what you've done is clearly proven that. So stay on that, because that's really all. I mean, that's awesome. Way to go.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. There's also 2 people on this call that we personally work with, so they know the struggles of MD Anderson, and they know great partnership. So shout out to Rich and Jennifer.
Come on, who's got a question? I know it's awkward to ask questions on Zoom. Yes, Dad.
So other than when you looked at, did you put anything in there for the parents in your boxes when you're saying it's a family box, or was it strictly focused on the siblings and the patients?
So right now, specifically for camps, it's going to be patients and siblings. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do family activities throughout the year and providing a family box. But currently it's just patients and siblings.
And did you try any food items? I'm a little nervous about that because, being in Texas, I'm afraid things are going to melt, but anyway, I just wondered if you guys had thought about that either. We're going to do a s'more supplies. So
we're doing that right now. I'll let you know how it goes.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just let you know how it goes. I'm a little hesitant on the food as well with the same reason. We do have Jennifer with Sunshine Kids is helping, and I guess this would be a family activity, providing gift cards for Domino's, and so that the family does get it. So we're not shipping them a pizza that we have to worry about getting gross through the mail, but an option for them to use that, and they might not have time that night. So that a gift card of some sort, I think, will be a good idea.
I love that. Tara, thank you so much. How are you sharing the Zoom link with the campers?
So last resort is with the camper registration, we have all the parents' emails. And so last resort, we'll be emailing the parents the schedule, the links, also including them on the Zoom meeting. I can email it to them. Hopefully I can do Microsoft Teams, where in addition to sending it to them, everything will have one central location. And if Microsoft Teams goes really well, it's really cool. And I would love to show y'all because it's an amazing platform. So I think that'll be really helpful.
And it's free for nonprofits. So everybody can do for free if you didn't know that. Awesome. Thank you so much. Bob, I'm reading the chat. S'mores bars, easier to send in a box. Awesome. Aston, I think Rich is next, but I certainly shouldn't be in charge.
You're Tonight, I'm gonna have myself a real good.
All right, so this will be fun because I think Aston has some slides. I don't even know what he's bringing up, but this all started, I would say, probably last year at Camp H-Town, which is, oops, that's not what I meant to do. It'd be great if you can do this, buddy. So at Camp H-Town, which is an MD Anderson camp as well, one of the campers actually, we just finished doing our dance. Look dressed like this because we're just split all our clothing, sweaty dance clothes off, and the kids in the hallway. And I'm like out there in the hallway, you guys gotta be quiet, make sure you get into your rooms and call it a night. And he goes, you know, you look a lot like Freddie Mercury. And I thought that was hilarious. And why would this camper know who Freddie Mercury looks like, except for Bohemian Rhapsody? Until about a month ago, when not this outfit at all, and a 5-year-old made the same comment to me. And I'm working out here in the farm, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm gonna have to make something happen with this. And our activities team for Camp Kids a Kid Chicago, we decided that as we're going to make a live reveal about us moving from going in-person camp to virtual camp. We wanted to do a town hall. We wanted to make a big splash about it and let our parents know what was up. So on a Thursday night meeting, and I have my next activities meeting after this, we discussed putting together a video. And our town hall was on Sunday. And and we went over a couple themes, and we came up with the Don't Stop Camp, or the Camp Show Must Go On. And we said, you know, it'd be really funny if we did like a music video to go along with our big reveal for the theme. And I said, I happen to know someone that could probably help with the editing part on that. And be prepared, I'm gonna bring my Freddie to the table. So we came up with an idea of, this is what we're gonna do. I found a video where people were doing hand motions. I did that real quick in iMovie, send everyone that link to that, send everyone the audio for the same song, so they all have the same music to go by. I told them, if you want to do costumes, great. If you want to do this, do that. They brought some of their camp culture to it. So you saw our child life specialist doing the baguette dance. Nobody knows what that is, but that's okay. All of our campers know what that is. And we threw that all together. I actually called, after that meeting, I called Anthony around 11-ish, because I know he doesn't sleep. And I said, hey, Anthony, can you do this for us? It's okay if you can't. It's okay. And little fun fact, Anthony is a past camper of ours from Camp Adventure Days here on Long Island. And he's been an LIT leader in training with us, and got to work with him directly. And I used to do the video stuff for Camp Adventure. And when I left Camp Adventure, he took it on, so I knew he'd be the right person to ask. So he said, sure, get it all in by 6 o'clock on Saturday. It was already Friday when we were having this conversation. And the rest happened. So it was awesome. I really had a lot of fun doing it. When we did the town hall with our parents first and then with our staff, the video really helped keep the kick in the gut down, if you will. We knew it wasn't going to be like a fun conversation if we had to say, hey, so no in-person camp, but we're doing virtual camp. So we did this video and said, like, if we can do this in 2 days, just imagine what we can do to make camp awesome with everyone. So I've already told Anthony we're going to be doing a lot more videos like this as we go into prepping camp. We would like to make some videos the start of the day, just to have like a 5-minute, like, you know, countdown timer clock type of videos. We're moving back and forth between sessions. Even a fun, Brian Moore, who's not on the call tonight, actually sent me a message saying, you know, would it be really funny, because he came to camp in Chicago, what if you like filmed yourself getting out of the room and like knocking on all the doors saying, where are all the campers at? I'm like, done, we'll make it happen. So thinking of ways to bring the creativity of camp to the virtual world and bring that fun campiness to it all. That's why we did the video, and it's been hilarious, a lot of fun, and at least for me, I didn't have to put it together. So go ahead, Anthony. You can tell them all the fun stuff. Your end.
Yeah, no, putting together was really fun. It helps when you have a good song, because as an editor, I had to listen to that song probably close to 100 times. So I guess a good first note would be make sure if you're going to do a video like this, you have a good song and it's upbeat and chippery. But as you can see on the PowerPoint, I'm going to be a little more technical with what I'm going to talk about, which is more of the fun guide. I'm like, well, this is what we needed for our videos to kind of work, right? As you saw, a lot of our videos, if not all of our videos, were horizontal, because vertical videos are a lot harder to work with when the majority of your videos are horizontal. So that's just one of like the small guidelines you might want to send out if you're trying to do a video like this, where it's a lot easier to edit video when everything's kind of in the same aspect ratio. So the thing that goes along with that is you kind of want your videos to have the same file format for convenience, especially for the non-techie people. Once they're all kind of in the same format, you don't have to worry too much about conflicting formats when you're trying to do the editing. So cell phone videos, laptops, or Zoom videos all really work well together. Once you get into like personal recordings and like legacy phones and stuff, you kind of can get it kind of can get a little bit more challenging. You want to be well lit. You know, it's always more challenging when the person's in the dark. As soon as you're like, if I turn off my light right now, it's really hard to see me, right? So with your light being on, it just helps with like whole like making sure all the scenes go together. And then background options, right? We can have a green screen. I think I currently have a blue screen on. There's a blue screen behind me, which gives me the ability to put this behind me so fluently.
And I have a Dollar Tree tablecloth. That's where we got our green screen. So just so you can see that behind me, no screen, it's a tablecloth.
My background isn't technically a blue screen. It's actually a bed sheet that is a solid color. So yeah, anything goes. It's held up with like not power tools, with like wrenches that I just stuck into the wood. It's great. So like things like that help with like cutting out people, right? So you saw Rich and Elisa like flew around the screen a bit. It's because they didn't have anything behind them and I could just be like, take their background out. So that was useful for doing that as well. And then props and costumes are encouraged, right? Rich dressed up as Freddie Mercury. We had the Teletubby person. Those things are funny and catching, and they're easier to work into a situation than just some person like standing there doing whatever motions. It's just more eye appealing. So that's kind of what kind of guidelines you want to try and implement when you're doing your video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next slide, Aston.
Next slide. Oh yeah, so the process, right? So this is the process as an editor I went through. So before I did any editing at all, I had some video guidance. So we sent those videos out to the people who were going to record stuff. We sent that along with the music and the songs. Right. Yeah. So all of that stuff was for gathering information, for gathering video. Rich? Yeah,
we use Google Drive links. And we also have Vimeo. It's not on here, but some of the stuff that we've been doing, we actually been doing a lot of videos with our hashtag #CAC challenge. So we realized you can't email this. Some people actually text messaged videos, which was fun. We recommend not doing that because the ratio is different at the end. But if you can get like an online or storage, like Google Drive works great, or Dropbox, basically, right?
Yeah. For collecting video itself, it's a lot easier when it's all in one place and you don't have to try and grab it from all over the place. Different people's emails, different people's cell phones. If you say like, hey, put all your videos on this Google Drive link or in this Dropbox, it'll make your life easier. So that was for gathering, and then researching on your edit, which is a weird thought, right? You're like, oh, well, I'll just take all these videos and put them into a thing. And it's like, you gotta like breathe for a second and think about it, right? If you're going off of another video like we did, how did they edit it? What did they do with these parts? what can we do with those parts? If you were to put our videos side by side, you'd probably see a lot of really similar things, right? Parts of the song where they shrank everybody down to 3 screens. I shrank everybody down to 3 screens because it already worked. You know, and like, how did they move from this part of the song to that part of the song?
Yeah, just to give you a little background reference, the song that we took the hand motions from was from people from all over the world that were fans of Queen and did the Don't Stop Me Now. And we're like, this is great. Now we don't have to learn the dance move, and we can use this like motions and figure out how they did it. So it's good to have the creativity before you and then kind of build on that.
And then another thing too to think about with your music, we didn't use the whole song, right? We used the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, if most. And that's because after reviewing the song over and over and over again, I went, this is the most upbeat part of the song that I think also works with the kind of introduction into the video, right? If you start a video where it's like up here, where do you start? It's got nowhere to go because it's at the top. So we started the song at the beginning because most songs have a natural progression, but you could also find a song that has like a midway drop and goes up. But also just like if it's got some poppy stuff in it, and it's got some funny lyrics in it, all of that stuff. Yeah, if it's later in the song, you might want to move later in the song.
Yeah, but there was at least one part where we're like, we can make this 2 minutes, and then we listen to the lyrics again, like, nope, we don't want that lyric in there. So
yeah, there are some lyrics you don't want in there, right? So that also can play a part of it too. I did Rich's camps, or I did Chicago's camps camp video, and we had that song which escapes me with the monkeys in it. I don't remember it. Yeah. That part. And we had like a whole scene where there were monkeys like one day at the camp, and I was like, oh, it's perfect. I'll put that song underneath the monkey song. Great. Or I put that video on top of the monkey video. So just find ways to make your visuals match your audio. Sometimes help with like how fun it is. Like you saw with the Lady Godiva and the car. It's like, because I initially was like, who is Lady Godiva? And I was like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, oh, that's Lady Godiva. She's some like
not that
past person.
We don't want. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'll just take her statue and pop it in and then pop it out.
And we also worked back and forth when he's like, what kind of race car? I'm like, can we make it the Mach 5 from Speed Racer? Just because I liked it. No one else is going to know what that is. But the Mach 5's in there, folks. Just so you know.
Yeah. Oh, and then, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. The last part. Just, so then, yeah. For editing, it's a little bit more like if I needed to do a whole thing, I could do it. But you got to gather the videos. You got to cut out the parts you want, and you got to put them together. So what you want to do is you just want to take those videos, you want to look through them, find the parts you're looking for. You want to take the music, however you have to get it, if you have to rip it, if you need to buy it. And you want to, if you have previous camp video, look at it and see if any of that works with your video as well.
Anthony did a really good job because he saw our video already, helped put the video together. So when he's like talking about like a shooting star and all that, we were at the Adler Planetarium last year, and so we added that part in there. And they're talking about having a ball. There's like they're playing with the ball, so it was really good to have someone that was able to know and visualize what we had and put that in there. Last slide, and I think we're almost out of time.
Yeah. So I just want to go quickly over the software we used. So I personally own Photoshop and Adobe Premiere. Photoshop is for video editing. Photoshop is for photo editing, which is what I use to cut out the race car and the Lady Godiva and any other little visual things like that. And then Premiere Pro is what I used for editing the video together. And then I had a problem with my files, one of my files, so I had to use Handbrake, which is free, and it just converted the file for me to the correct format. But there are alternatives to those. GIMP is really good. It's very much like Photoshop. PixelRX, it's a completely online photo editing software. And it looks great. I personally haven't used PixelRX, but it looks basically like Photoshop as well. And it allows you to like work on different computers. For video editing, they're free. Every Windows PC comes with Movie Maker. Every Mac comes with iMovie. and Movia, Movia, Movavi, something like that. Is really great. They're relatively new, I think, but they have a lot of really cool presets for you to like built-in features and stuff for like screen wipes and for transitions and things. So that's also something to look at too. And that one's just a quick download and it works for both.
I just want to say this is not Anthony's real job. He does
No.
IT like support, but
I
fun
do-
part is that we worked together on video editing before for Camp Adventure,
Yeah.
and he was able to say like, I can do that. I'm like, great. So you probably have someone in your team somewhere or know someone that knows someone. I had a video guy, and I got a video guy. I can ask him. So just ask around, and I'm sure they can help you put something together just for fun. It was a lot of fun.
Rich, Anthony, that was so cool. Also, I didn't know Freddie Mercury was going to be here tonight, so that was pretty exciting for me. Questions all around. I know that I love video making, so I could get I think later Anthony and I have to go hang out for a while and just dig into the details. But other folks, what kind of questions do you have for them?
Not a question, more of a comment, and why I love these COCA sessions. I was trying to figure out how to bring activities in a project together, and you gave me a really, really good idea. So thank you for that, and just offering that and, again, collaborating. So appreciate the inspiration.
Why horizontal versus vertical, Deb? Basically, when you're filming, you get more of a wider screen, and your screen is going to be wide anyhow. So you want to have that aspect ratio. It's a lot easier to edit. I'll answer that one. I know that.
Thank you so much for digging into not only the silliness and the fun, but also the technical aspect of how it gets done. I know we've made a lot of videos that you collect video from other people, and it is so annoying to get emails and text messages, and you're like, yeah, you just upload it to this link. It's the easiest thing ever. And then you're on like a 45-minute phone call with somebody because they can't figure out how to do it. And it's okay, and it's worth it. But I feel your pain, and I loved you just being like, yeah, it's so annoying when people just text you the video. You're like, I know, we'll figure it out.